Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at the big story we are tracking for you. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has had a rough few weeks. First, it was the lockdown parties. Then it was the leaked emails prioritizing evacuating animals over humans in Afghanistan. And now the release of the Sue Gray report is looming, and opposition leaders are calling for resignation. Some from his own party also think that he should resign. But what do people of the United Kingdom think? A recent YouGov poll shows that 70% of Londoners want Johnson to resign. Only 18% say that he should not. As for Conservative voters, nearly 55% of them think that Boris Johnson should step down. They want the Prime Minister to quit if he broke lockdown rules. Conservative voters from his constituency, Uxbridge, are also divided over the Partygate scandal. These are grim figures for the Prime Minister, who is desperately trying to hold on. For now, Johnson says he is getting on with the job and will not resign. This comes as the release of the Sue Gray report looms over the government. The highly anticipated report of an internal inquiry conducted by Sue Gray is expected to be out shortly. Boris Johnson's office has promised to publish its findings and make the report public.
Are you delaying the Sue Gray report?
Absolutely not, but you'll just have to, I'm afraid, you've got to let the independent inquiries go on.
When do you think it'll be published?
I can't really say any more than what I said yesterday about that.
Will you publish it in full?
Of course.
Now, our correspondent, Benji High, is joining us live from London for more on this. Thanks for being with us, Benji. Now, the poll says that 70% of Londoners want Prime Minister Boris Johnson to quit. Is the mood that bad?
It's a pretty phenomenal situation that the Prime Minister finds himself in. This is a man who won a convincing election victory back in 2019, a huge majority in the House of Commons, and yet now deeply unpopular according to the polls. Labour, the opposition party, surging ahead, and he's finding himself in a situation where he is fighting for his job. But, as you heard, not in a position where he feels he has to resign. The only way that he would be forced out of office is if 54 Conservative MPs decided to put in a letter of no confidence in him, and then there would be a vote of confidence. If the majority voted against him, he would have to step down from his position as Prime Minister. And a lot of that rests on the outcome of that inquiry from senior civil servant Sue Gray, looking into a series of alleged lockdown breaches during the past 2 years of lockdowns, at a time when most people weren't able to socialise indoors. We have revelations from Downing Street that parties were being held, some of which that Boris Johnson himself is accused of attending. The police are even getting involved by investigating them as well. And the investigation, the findings of that investigation, that report, is due imminently. If Boris Johnson is found to have lied to Parliament, misled MPs about breaking the guidance, and he claims that he didn't break any rules, then his situation is getting into even more grave and serious territory.
Right. Now, the Sue Gray report on the lockdown parties is due imminently, as you said, in the next few days. How can Boris Johnson possibly weather the storm?
That's a really good question, and there are a number of different scenarios that would be very troubling for him. As I mentioned before, if the outcome of this report is that he is found to have acted illegally or have misled Parliament about the fact that he did attend these parties, they did take place and they were against the COVID rules in place, then he might face the anger, the wrath of his own MPs and be forced out of office. There is a particular scenario, though, where he could almost be rescued. That is, if the report isn't released in full. A number of situations why this could be the case. The first is that the report initially is presented to Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, and then Downing Street releases it publicly. They might choose to redact certain segments. And the other part is to do with that police investigation that I mentioned before. The fact that that there's still a number of elements that are still being looked into by law enforcement means that Sue Gray or the Prime Minister could think to themselves it's not a sensible time for those revelations to come to light due to that separate ongoing investigation, and therefore the Prime Minister might not face that confidence vote initially. But the warning lights are out for him, because even if he gets away with it this week, next week, the fact that that police investigation is still ongoing means this issue is going to hang over him, hang over his government for potentially weeks, maybe even months to come.
Right, Benji, thank you very much for joining us with all the latest details there.
We are now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.